Hello, dreamers. Welcome back to the show. If this is your first time watching or listening, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at LivinTheDream506. Share it. Tell your friends about it. All that good stuff. Everything helps. So thanks, at the very least, for just being here. My guest today is the drummer for one of my favorite bands in the world, and that band is Alt J. His name is Thom Sonny Green, and he also has a solo album called High Anxiety, which I love. He's one of the nicest, most down-to-earth people I've ever talked to, and it was surreal having him on the show. And we go deep, so I hope you guys like it.
Yeah, I'm Tom from Alt J, and I am living the dream.
Living the dream.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, it's nice evenings, kind of sun's going down. It's been a nice day, so yeah, all good. How about you?
Good. It's pretty hot here today, and it's looking like a thunder and lightning storm might be rolling in, which is
right.
just perfect for this.
What time? Whereabouts are you right now?
We're East Coast Canada, New Brunswick.
Oh, right. Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So how's
I've never
life?
been, but I've heard of it. Yeah, life's good. Yeah. Obviously it's surreal, I think. Despite how surreal it is, I have been appreciating how fortunate I am. I have everything I need at home, and I've got good things going on, and I'm fortunate that I can step back when I need to. Last few months, me and the band have had to do that. From like mid-March, we before the lockdown was introduced in the UK, like we knew that we shouldn't be going anywhere. I'm very high risk, being on immunosuppressants from a kidney transplant. According to the NHS, I'm like it's one of the more at-risk people. I am. So, and it's a weird thing to be told that, and because I feel fine, and I have felt fine for a long time, and I've had colds and maybe the flu even before, and I've felt like shit, but I've got over it. So it's a weird thing to be told, like, you might die if you get it, so don't leave the house, like, at all.
Yeah, I can't imagine just the stress of thinking about that, I guess. Like, and I know, well, the title of your solo album was High Anxiety, so I know that you've dealt with things like that. How's it affected you, and how have you kind of dealt with that?
Yeah, I mean, I it could be worse. I think it could have been worse the last few months. I think I'm lucky. I've got to the point in my life where I've been working on myself for a while now, and previous to lockdown, I'd been at home quite a bit. The band took some time off from everything, and just kind of made sure that we had time to be at home, and I had the opportunity to like think about things a little bit and do what I needed to do for myself and my own mental health, which I've done at various points in my life, but not like seriously and not with the right kind of help. So I was actually very well prepared, I think, for the lockdown, and it has been anxiety inducing, and I think maybe more than I realize. I think the past week, actually, I've noticed that I have a tendency to get very kind of fidgety, and I like just a bit like scratchy and stuff, and I don't notice it until someone else points it out, and I think, why is that happening? And you know, I can be quite hard on myself sometimes, and there's been a lot of that, I think, during lockdown, being like, I'm at home, like I should be like writing an album from start to finish, or you know, learning to play the piano fluently, or all that stuff, and then you realize it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, there shouldn't be any kind of bar for output during lockdown. So it's been a bit of that kind of like giving myself the space to do whatever I need to do, but also staying disciplined. But in terms of anxiety, like I've never felt better. Like I've never had it this much under control before. So I'm very fortunate for that.
Why do you think that is?
I think I've learned to understand where it came from. I think that's been the key. I think a lot of my anxiety over the years has been due to not really knowing what the, you know, what's going on. That's terrifying when you are really in the grips of neurosis and or pushing the boundaries of what felt like pushing the boundaries of sanity for a long time. Doing that on your own without any kind of like reference, you know, I thought I was going mad, like genuinely, for a long time, and understanding that I'm not, like understanding that my mental health is or has been bad, but I'm not going mad. I'm not mad. You know, I convinced myself of all kinds of things. You know, I was really up against it, and I think learning where the root of things came from helped me understand that I can then give myself a break. I can look at it as an outsider and think, how can I make that better? Like, you know, one thing I've learned to do is think of what my responsible adult might do, and you know, think of myself as a child as well, and think, when I'm being really, really hard on myself, like think like, would I be saying this kind of stuff to a friend? Like, would I be saying like, you're not good enough? Like, you know, you eat really badly, you look terrible, or I would never ever treat anybody like that. So why would I treat myself like that? And I've been, you know, been given that by, you know, I've been doing CBT therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, for 2 years, and that's been life-changing. You know, finding a good therapist. It's just taken this long, and I'm nowhere near finished, but I feel just so much relief, you know, and it also meant that I was taking various medications for anxiety and depression. I was able to come off those because of therapy, which is something I never ever thought I would do. I thought that was it, you know. I thought I was only ever going to change medication, or it would get stronger. That's just what I thought. So when you come off those things, when you're ready, my mind was just like, oh my God, like I still have, like, you know, my personality of being quite, I'm very, very, I think a lot. Part of the problem was that I would think a lot and not really understand why, and it would go out of control. Whereas now I can think a lot and not be terrified by it. And that's been incredibly liberating, you know, being able to just accept like a bit more of myself. It's incredible. Like, the first couple of months after coming off the last medication I was taking, I felt like just the happiest I've ever felt, and I can still do. Like, yeah, it's amazing.
Do you think that's like, has it affected your creativity in any way, like whether it be music writing or your art, like your painting and things like that?
I think it has. Yeah, I think it's not affected. Like, I don't think it's affected like my kind of vision, if I can call it that. Like, I think it's just affected my confidence towards trying to achieve it, and because I feel better like around people, and I feel less social anxiety, and I feel more confident in those environments. That's meant that I can maybe push myself a bit more, like maybe work with somebody that I'd like to work with. Or last year we I wanted to try acting for a long time, and so I found a class, and I started classes and ended up being in a play like last year, which I would never have been able to do 3 years ago. There's no way that I would have done that. And even when I was doing it, I was like, how is this happening? And like side of stage on the opening night, I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, how did I get here? So it has definitely just feel like, I feel like it's like a greenhouse that like the windows have just kind of been clogged up for 20 years. And then we're just giving them a good power wash. I can see in it, I can see out from it a lot clearer. Yeah,
that's awesome. What was the name of the play that you performed in?
We did an adaptation of Chekhov's The Seagull.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's apparently it's regarded as like the first kind of contemporary play. Like it kind of was trying to move on from the like classic kind of like over dramatic, very theatrical kind of acting, and it's more about more method. And the adaptation we did was we used like kind of contemporary language. I played a character called Boris Trigorin, who was a writer, successful writer, but a narcissist, very, very insecure. And it was tough, like some of it, identifying with a lot, because you're encouraged to kind of, you look at the character and you find that in yourself, and then you locate those experiences and emotions in yourself and draw them out, so you're not really actually acting, you're not pretending anything. But it was an incredible experience. I'd like to do it again.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You got me thinking, like a lot of people attribute their art to depression and just darkness, and that sort of births and stems a lot of art. But you kind of alluded to having a vision the entire time that hasn't changed since your mental health has kind of improved. So, like, is there a way you can explain your vision?
That's a good question. I think the way that I've viewed it, I think generally and for the longest time, is it's really about conveying the fact that I am here, and that I am conscious, and I have a conscious mind, and I don't know really what that is, but I would like to kind of communicate with people, I guess, through arts in the purest way that I can. Like I'm very drawn to painters like Mark Rothko or Howard Hodgkin, people who can express emotion very simply with color. It doesn't have to just be color, I'm into all kinds of visual art, but for me because it's abstract as well, it's a language which it's an infinite language, you could say, and the appeal of that is I've always loved that appeal of being able to kind of use, for example, with painting, finding a certain color or hue and evoking an emotion within somebody just with that one color. And it's the same for music, like you might have a chord or a beat or a lyric or a sound, and it can like really like affect you. Affects me like it quite profoundly sometimes, or even like I think yesterday I think the TV was on, and I heard like this backing track to something, and it just I locked onto it, you know, and it was just a very simple thing. And I like the idea of being able to do that, you know, and I'm very kind of, I've always been quite aware of how little time you actually have around. And to me, it seems like such a small amount of time, considering how much there is to experience. Like, I want to be able to I just want to be able to like find that good stuff, you know. It's one of my biggest motivations for making any kind of art is that breakthrough. Like, happens now and again where you hear a piece of music, or you watch a film, or whatever it is, and I'm desperate to do that myself. And the funny thing is, I won't ever achieve it because I'm always striving for more, you know. I might, we've been very lucky with the band. Like, we've got an amazing amount of support and get compliments quite often, and some quite like very, very meaningful responses from people. And as a drummer, like, I get a lot of praise on tour, for example, from all kinds of people, and I love it, and I appreciate it. But all that does is kind of adds fuel to the fire, and makes me think like, well, it's kind of a license to keep going as well. And it's quite a general answer, but it's I find that art for me is it's kind of my priority, I think. Yeah.
When did music become such an important part of your life? Like, do you remember a specific time growing up maybe that sent you on this path, or like a song or a band that sort of started it all for you?
I think there's been multiple examples of that throughout my life where I've had moments of significant impact. I think the earliest one that I can remember was when I was a toddler, being my dad had like rigged up the whole house, speakers running throughout the whole house. And back then, it wasn't just like Sonos, or like Bluetooth. Like, he actually wired it all around the house to one record player. And he used to like a lot of like Nat King Cole music, and I'd be like on the floor doing whatever, and I remember hearing Nat King Cole a lot, and his voice kind of resonating through me, and it being very, very I would see things when I would listen to it. It would be very, very visual, and I kind of have always kind of had that since then. And then I discovered listening to music on headphones as I got older. When I was about 11 or 12, a friend of mine who was a few years older than me made me a mixtape, and it had like Deftones, Michael Jackson, some punk bands. So there's a band called the Guano Apes, and I was obsessed with this mixtape, especially with the Deftones. And I'd already started to like get interested. Yeah, I'd already started to get interested in music by then, and but the drums for Deftones, I really locked onto that, and that's when I started to kind of get a bit obsessed with drums. And as I got older, it was then Blink-182, like Travis Barker. Learn his style a bit, because I taught myself. I would just listen to music and try and repeat what they were doing. And you do that long enough, then it's a good way to learn. And then going to university, In Rainbows by Radiohead came out the first year of university. And by that, up till then, I was pretty much exclusively metal. And I was one of these guys that was like, anything outside of metal is, is weak. And I was so naive. I mean, my friends thought we were cool because we only listened to metal, and it was good because we only listened to metal, and metal is incredibly complex. And some of the, like listening to Pantera and Nirvana for years, and playing that stuff as well. But then in Rainbows, just expanded it just 360 degrees in my head. And that was another fork in the road, and it just kind of branched out massively. Like, In Rainbows might be the most influential album to me. And then after that, it was a bit more like electronic music, like Clams Casino. His beats inspired me to start making music electronically. And then it was Arca recently. Arca's first 2 EPs, Stretch 1, Stretch 2. Those then took the kind of the classic kind of like grid production style, like 4x4 beat, and Arca just threw it all in the air, and I just couldn't understand how he did it, and that influenced me a lot. So yeah, I feel like I've been lucky. Like, things have come along at the right time. I'm waiting for the next one in terms of music. I'm curious to see what it'll be. I've still not gotten into the Beatles, so that'll happen at some point. I'm looking forward to it. It's just not yet.
Yeah. Well, I know there's been accounts of Joe taking mushrooms, and it's kind of affected his writing style, and maybe that's how some people get into the Beatles. Like, has that ever been a part of your life? Any experimentation to enjoy the music?
I used to smoke marijuana when I was younger, quite a bit, growing up. I think that definitely might have influenced my taste. Like, sorry, pardon me. I was really into like metal and slower kind of like stoner like metal and grunge. I still am. Like, I have naturally always been drawn to the kind of slower, kind of driving kind of beats. I've never taken hallucinogens because I don't think it would work well.
Mix well with anxiety and depression. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, some people swear by it, and some, there are a lot of like really amazing like kind of clinical trials and benefits, especially to mushrooms. But recreationally, I felt like I've experienced transcendental ways of being without drugs through anxiety and various kind of mental states, and they weren't pleasant. So I've not really been drawn to that.
Understandably.
Yeah, which is fine. I'm tempted now and again. I stopped smoking marijuana about 4 or 5 years ago, and I've got no desire to. But from what you can, the medicinal stuff now in the US, for example, it would be interesting to see like how I would feel. But at the moment, I'm fine.
Yeah. We had a ton of fan questions that came in. I'm going to sprinkle them in as much as I can here.
Yeah, cool.
My buddy Wee Nguyen and James Green and a ton of others mentioned Radiohead and were wondering about inspiration with you and stuff like that. But like, what else inspires your music, and like, where does your style of drumming come from? Like, you're not really a metal drummer, and you're very minimalist and experimental, which is one of my favorite styles. Like, I just absolutely love everything that you create and produce, and I'm just wondering where that influence comes from.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I think it comes from, I think growing up, I was a metal drummer. I had the double kick, I had the cymbals, I had the, like 8 rack toms, and sounded awful. And I think because of learning that, and like I said, I was into like the kind of like the breakdown style of metal, so like sludgy, kind of like the slower the better. There's nothing better. I think growing up playing that, and like my friends, like the bands that I was in, we just smoked a ton of weed and just played that. That gave me that like sense of like drive, I think, in terms of the beats and the structures. And then as I got older, the Blink-182 kind of influence, the kind of like the speed and the trilly kind of thrills and the just the fast pacedness and the tight drums, you know, this tiny snare drum and that kind of stuff. And then getting to university, and I think the biggest thing was when we got together, we started writing music in a bedroom, in Gwil's bedroom. We had no room for anything, so I literally used a kick drum and a snare drum and like a couple of like percussive shakers and a saucepan, and that forced me to just use that. You know, I think one of the best ways to like learn discipline is to remove everything that you just don't need. And I just mastered the kick and the snare, and the majority of the first album was written like that. You know, and then we got to the studio, and I could add more stuff, experiment a bit more, but our producer Charlie really wanted to keep that minimal kind of thing, and we were a very minimal band as well. Sorry, my throat is just like the worst moment possible. You get a tickly cough.
Just let it fly.
Yeah. I can't remember last time this happened. So yeah, we were just in this environment that just allowed for discipline. You know, and Joe's guitar writing and playing, for me, it was all about like honoring that and enhancing that in the best way. Like it's like cooking. Like you you don't want to just throw in anything. You season it, you know, perfectly if you can, and that's the way that I approach writing the drums. Is how can I just seal this or add a rhythm, you know, and I do that with Joe very well. I think in terms of like how easy it is. I just look at how he's playing as well. Like he picks his guitar, and sometimes it annoys the shit out of me because the it's like polyrhythms. But that's, you know, one of his gifts is the fact that he's not thinking about bars or structure at all. He's just thinking, does this sound good? And then it's up to us to figure out how we play it more than one bar. We're working on something at the moment which I've still not got my head around. It's like Tool, like it's like almost Sugar. Like it's just like, right, I think it comes around like at the end of the track. Yeah, and Gus as well. Like Gus is like Philip Glass-esque kind of minimal. Like we're together in that bedroom at university, just one keyboard. You know, you could hear everything, and you just lock into it. We didn't know that what we were doing at the time. We were just messing around, and I've tried to keep that minimal style as much as I can. It can be difficult touring because if you're playing a big place, the drums have to connect. So I do use a Tama Star Classic Bubinga wood kit, which is a metal drummer's kit. Like Abe Cunningham uses that kit, but there's still no cymbals. Yeah.
So many fans were asking about the writing and creative process.
Cool. Nice.
One fan on Reddit noted that the lyrics are often very dense for analysis, and the music itself is packed with idiosyncrasies and callbacks to previous albums. And you guys also seem to make great use of what one might consider exotic musical motives. And then he said, we're all curious of how each song comes together, and we'd love to hear about the writing process from beginning to end.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the lyrics, Joe's responsible for the lyrics, and Gus helps kind of, he helps edit and kind of structure the lyrics a lot. As far as I can tell, Joe reads a lot, particularly during the first album at university. We were both studying fine art, and so Joe's reading a lot about art and a lot of kind of classic novels, and and he writes about what he knows. So if he's reading a book and he's influenced by it, then he'll write about that, and I think the idiosyncrasies, like they're deliberate, like they do come back around. We do try to like kind of look back on what we've done and think it's a work in progress to an extent. And it's nice to kind of like keep things going a little bit and tied together a little bit. In terms of the writing like kind of process, it can vary. Often Joe will have a guitar riff part, like a piece, and we'll go from that. And I've been sending like Joe, like not so much recently, but I have in the past, like samples and things. Like I work a lot on Ableton, and it's so kind of, you just pull up your laptop and it's there. So I love working with samples. I'll send Joe things like that. Like when we're in the studio together, like I have my laptop and some monitors, and I have a few synths, and I can just kind of like, because I listen to a lot of that kind of music, like a lot of electronic music, also a lot of hip hop, like sample based hip hop. It's nice to know. It's nice to think like, well, I can add this texture to it, maybe. Yeah, and I think the lyrics tend to be introduced last. I think Joe likes to focus on the music first, and then the lyrics kind of come along. Although at the moment, it's not that way actually. I think because we've had quite a bit of time, the lyrics are kind of running parallel at the moment for a couple of tracks. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. And it's frustrating when people ask questions and they don't get the answer they want, but it can vary. And I think a lot of people want to know what the formula is, but I don't think there is one, to be honest. I hope there isn't anyway.
We all want the secret formula.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few bands I'd like their formula from. Yeah, we try to allow each other a lot of space and a lot of we're very accommodating of each other, and I think we established quite early on that the music comes first, and we have to honor that, and we try to remove any compromise. And we're very lucky that we can do that, and we're very, very lucky that we could do that from the beginning. I know that a lot of people don't get that straight away, but because we got that quite early on, I think it makes it even more imperative that we honor it.
So, did your success and fame, this is maybe a little off topic, but did that affect your anxiety like a lot, or how did you kind of stay grounded throughout that whole process? Because you guys just skyrocketed, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like it just took off, and you guys were a worldwide sensation.
Yeah, I think it did affect me. Like I think at the time of us releasing An Awesome Wave, and like the year before that, I'd say, at the time I didn't think I realized, but I was like looking for things to make me feel better, and like I was looking for things to fill the void that I'd had for a long time. I didn't know that at the time. I was younger and I was a lot more naive. I had a lot more energy, and so I capitalized on a lot of it, and I would I kind of focused on the wrong things. But it's easy to say that now, but I had a lot of amazing experiences, and I really rode the wave. But I think in hindsight, I was avoiding a lot. And I think when you're given that kind of sudden, there was like a year or so before the album came out where we were nobodies, and we were like, just writing music for ourselves, and nobody knew we existed. But I think relatively it was quite quick. And in terms of like breaking America and stuff like that, it felt ridiculously quick. And I think it sped up a lot of things. Like it sped up my kind of like need to fill that void and avoiding myself a lot. I think I spent a long time in a fog, and I actually don't remember like a lot of stuff. Like I think because of my mental state, I wasn't capable of actually being there in the moment. And that's okay. Like I'm able to look back at that now and realize that. I'm lucky that I never went like off the deep end. I think I was fortunate enough that I had people around me that I could kind of bounce off a bit. And but there was, fairly recently, kind of 2016, 17, they were probably quite hard years, I think. After the second album like wound down, 2016, I was living alone in London. I just bought a flat, which was incredible. But I also had free time. I had more money, and then that's when I really ignored myself, and I really thought I was just having fun, but I was kind of being quite self-destructive. So it does for some people like myself, that kind of success, it can be damaging, but I think I'm on the other side of it now, and I think I'm appreciating more, and I mean I can see a lot clearer now, and now I'm capable of like appreciating what I have and what I want. And I'm just very, very lucky that we had the success we did, because I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't maintaining the business of the band, like, other people were, and could have all gone south, but other people kept it together. So I'm very lucky, and I'm aware of that now. And now I'm able to be more present, and I don't want to, I wouldn't want to regret anything now.
Yeah. And so during quarantine and things like that, when you really have a lot of time to think, like, have you been creative? Like, have you felt creative during quarantine? Actually, that was a question from Delaney Schoenfeld. She really wanted to know if you felt creative during quarantine.
Yeah, I think I have. I think like I said, I think to begin with, I was like, also to begin with, nobody knew how long this would go on for either. So to begin with, I was like 2 weeks at home, which in hindsight is like 2 weeks. You like, really naive. But yeah, I was like, 2 weeks at home, inside. I can play a lot of Call of Duty. I can play a lot of piano. I've got a studio in my house, like painting studio. Like the previous owner was a painter, so it's an actual painting studio. I can use that, but the trouble is, I have very, very high ambition and very, very high expectations of myself, and it's very unattainable. I'm not like, I'm working on it, but I'm trying to like lower my expectations of myself so that I can just enjoy what I'm doing. And so whilst I was being very creative, I was kind of under this like pressure from myself, and it kind of like but at points it became this weird thing where I'd be like, I don't want to do this right now, but I should be. But I did do a lot of stuff that I really, I kept up the acting. I was we were taking the classes online, and I've been doing that for a couple of years now. And it's a very small group of people with a really good teacher. And I did Hamlet, so I did the famous "To Be or Not to Be" soliloquy, which is really hard just to memorize, because you look at it, it's like, it makes no sense. You might as well be learning 100 numbers in a random order, like, or another language. But then once you get the meaning, it's incredibly interesting. And yeah, I did that, and I was really proud of myself. I did that, and I performed it on Zoom, and it's Hamlet. It's like, fair enough. And
Can we get an excerpt from it?
No.
No, okay. Perfect.
Yeah, I wish I could, but I wouldn't be able to do it without doing it properly.
Right.
One day I'd love to do it properly. I'd love to play Hamlet. I think that would be, the thing that appeals to me about doing like Hamlet, for example, is the amount of work it would take. Like, oh my God, like to do the entire play. Like, I really want to put myself through that mill. Like, I want to do that work.
You love the process, eh?
Yeah, it's really fascinating. The acting, like it's really, from what I've learned, I think the key is to be yourself, like, and be as truthful as to yourself as possible, which is surprising. Like, I think a lot of people might find that quite surprising. A lot of people might think it's the opposite, and you're playing someone else. And there are, if you're playing a living person, then you are to an extent, but the idea is that you are alive, and you aren't pretending anything. And that's when you get the best performances. But it's very, very hard to do that. So yeah, I have been creative. Yeah, I've been trying to learn Japanese as well, which is it is quite creative, because the language itself is so abstract and alien. I think I am using that part of my brain in terms of its imagery and symbols. And coding, I tried a bit of coding at the beginning, like learning Python, and I did a bit of that, and I got as far as I wanted to with it.
Give us a sentence in Japanese.
Oh, I can't.
No.
I'm still learning. I like konnichiwa and arigato and ohayo and the basics. But at the moment, I'm trying to learn to read Japanese and write it.
There's a song by one of my favorite bands, Humphreys McGee, called Hajime Mashite.
Oh, right. Yeah. Hajimashite. Yeah. I think that's nice to meet you if you met someone for the first time. Yeah. Yeah. At the moment, I'm just trying to read, and there's 3 different alphabets in Japanese, which is insane. Just to learn all 3.
What are they for?
Well, one of them is for like native Japanese. Another is for exterior, so things that don't translate. So if you were to write I can't think, like New York Yankees, like if you were to write that in Japanese, you would use, I can't remember if it's katakana or hiragana. And then another is kanji, which is Chinese implemented into Japanese. And kanji is like symbols. So when you see those crazy like diagrams, that's kanji. So that might be an entire sentence in one symbol. And there's over 2,000 of those. So
that's ridiculous.
It's a big undertaking. But I love Japanese culture, and it's a challenge, and I just like doing that. And it is creative, I think. Yeah.
So you guys have probably played in Japan, right?
We have, yeah, in Tokyo. Yeah, I went to Tokyo with the band for the first time. Never been before, and been, I think, twice. And it's phenomenal. Like, it's just so interesting visually. Like, I felt very calm there, like, because you're like, my anxieties and things kind of weren't relatable there. They made no sense there because it's so alien. It was very freeing. And I love video games, and I always have, and I love technology, and they do that perfectly. You can go to a Nintendo, like, or like a secondhand shop, and you can buy like a brand new, like, original sealed Game Boy for half the price you can here, and I love that stuff. Yeah, they take their obsessions to the next level. So they're my kind of people.
They perfect their art.
Yeah, they do, and they're incredible people. Very, 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 very polite, but respectful and civil. Yeah.
Disciplined, like traditional.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I have so many questions. I'm going to try to get to as many as I can because
Yeah.
I love them all.
Cool.
Ariella Sroloff wanted to know what the most difficult aspects of collaborating with other artists is, and like, what do you like best and least about working solo?
That's a good question. Difficulties with collaboration is well, for me personally, there's the social anxiety. So there's dealing with that to begin with. You don't know the person. You assume there might be an ego because they might be famous, or they might be, they're musicians. So there's that to deal with, and then there's the language that you both speak. Like, you kind of like praying that you both find that that kind of sweet spot of like knowing what each other is talking about, which can be hard with music. Yeah, and kind of conveying your vision, which is a really hard thing to do. I think a lot of creative people will understand that it's a skill in itself, talking about your art and your creativity, because you're trying to verbalize something that is abstract, which is impossible. Like, I think that's one of the reasons I'm drawn to, like, painting, for example, is that there's the challenge of conveying a concept as purely as possible. It's impossible, and so there's those kind of barriers which you have to get through, and respecting the other artist as well, and respecting their vision and what they want. And I'm very kind of like, if I have a clear vision about something, then I really have to remember that the other person has that same thing, and I have to respect that, because I can sometimes get a bit narrow-sighted and think I know what I'm doing. How can you not see it that way? But I've never had like a very bad experience. I've had experiences where it's taken a couple of minutes to like break the ice, but most of the time it's great. I've got a friend that I collaborate with a lot, Adam Connor, and when we're working together, I come out and I'm like really exhausted, but in a really good way, and like my adrenaline is pumping, because it's incredible. Like, you're like, what about this? And he's like, yeah, 100%, and it sounds great. And having two brains working on the same thing well is incredible. And the other question was working solo. Yeah, well, working on my own is, there's nobody else to tell me that what they think. There's good things and bad things to that. The bad thing is that then I've got no idea if it's any good or not. But
it's pure.
Yeah, it's very meditative. I find, working with myself, like the amount of stuff that I've made and I've not released, just because it's just the fact that I'm working on it. It's just the process of discovering these sounds, like working on Ableton, like with my headphones on. You just enter this world where you are in it, and the flow kind of kicks in, and that is it's essential for me, that kind of way of working, to be happy and have good mental health, to work like that. So there's good side, there's benefits to both ways of working, definitely. You need a balance.
Michael Seagull was wondering, how influential was Gregorian chant to Alt J's sound? Like, is it intentional or just coincidence?
I think it's intentional to an extent. Yeah, it's not something that we've talked about excessively. I mean, I don't sing, so it could be more so with Joe and Gus. They're very, very into their folk music and their folk choirs and their early music choir. Like Gus has been very influenced by early music, and he brings a lot of that to the band. I think they have a lot of focus around harmonizing, and they're very good at it, and they spend a lot of time on it. It's an instrument in itself. But in terms of Gregorian chant specifically, I would have to ask them. But as far as I'm aware, it's not a huge influence.
Millie Long wants to know, what's your favorite song to perform and why?
It varies a lot. But I'd say on the last tour, I would say it's difficult. It's so difficult because, like Hunger of the Pine, for example, that beat at the beginning on the so I programmed that beat, or the first half of that beat is programmed, so I had to learn how to play it on the kit, and I put it on pads, so I play it on pads. It was very hard to learn because programming a beat is entirely different from playing it. I've programmed beats before, and it's like that makes zero sense as a drummer. And Hunger of the Pine, after programming, it was like this. Okay, so there's 3 different rhythms. Like the kick is in a different rhythm to the snare and then to the hi-hat. So I had to learn. I had to learn how to play the hi-hat, and then introduce the snare, and then the kick, and eventually I got it. And it's just like a trap beat, and so playing that live, we played Royal Albert Hall in London twice. That was the 2 last shows that we did of the Relaxer tour. We ended 2 nights in Royal Albert Hall, which, we live in London. It was a dream come true. And playing that beat when it kicked in, it doesn't get any better than that, And but at the same time, like Nara, that beat, there's like 12 different beats for Nara, and it gives me a bit of room to improvise as well, and I really go for it. So it's annoying. It's an annoying answer, but I think if I could choose one, I think it'd be Nara.
Nice. I think that's probably my favorite Alt J song too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
Tiffany Stanley says she met you twice. You're such a sweet guy, and I would love to know how he feels about fan interaction. And I know you talk about being an introvert, and I just maybe does the fame and admiration, is it a bit much at times, or is it always heartwarming, or both, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's sweet that Tiffany says that. I remember meeting Tiffany, and the thing is, when I think about it, actually makes me quite emotional when I think about meeting fans, because they are going out of their way to let me know that something that I did they like, and that is invaluable. In life, it's invaluable on any level. If somebody thanks you for something, I wish that was more of an appreciated currency in life. And so meeting fans is invaluable, and it's the best thing about doing what I do, because I know what it's like. I've met people that I look up to and I just want them to know, like, you've changed my life, and you know, and at the same time, like, I find it difficult, you know, I have social difficulties which I can't help, you know, and so I get a bit overwhelmed, I get a bit nervous, I'm very, very self-conscious. So if, say, for example, we know that we're going to be meeting people, I get really nervous, and I start to get very tense, and I start to project things, you know, I start to wind myself up. And so when I get to meet somebody, I find it hard to look them in the eye. I find it hard to listen what they're saying. And then, you know, usually if I spend a couple of minutes with them, then it gets easier. So, you know, I know that I will have met fans in the past, and I probably will have come across like a total, you know, a total cunt, and I know that, like, and you know, and I apologize if I have done, and it always affects me as well. I know when I have, and it happens, the interaction happens, then I'm on my own and I feel awful, and I know that nobody would want that to happen, and it's just the way it is. But I'm working on that as well, you know. I'm not as scared as people anymore, and when you're touring for a long time and you have mental health issues and which aren't being monitored, it's a disaster, like, to be honest. And you know, there's only so much people around you can do or notice. If you don't talk to people, nobody's ever going to know what's going on. And that's what happened with me. Like, it's nobody's fault. It's not my fault. It's not my bandmates' fault. It's not the crew's fault. It's just the way it was. But now I'm really looking forward to when we do get to tour again, getting to meet fans again, because I want to be able to interact and show my appreciation again.
Yeah. You mentioned like people telling you about how your music has affected them. And the first time I saw you guys, this is one of the top 5 musical moments I've ever experienced in my life, and I've seen countless shows. But at Osheaga in 2013,
oh, right,
in Montreal, Canada,
yeah,
during the song "Dissolve Me," it was raining, and
right,
the sun was behind a rain cloud just above the stage, and during that breakdown of vocal harmonies, as the section was just like sort of reaching that crescendo, the clouds parted, the sun shined bright, and the rain stopped, and the music kicked back in, and it was just one of the most amazing experiences. And it was, like I said, it was the first time I saw you guys, and I was always a huge fan. And that story, even telling it right now, gives me chills, and I've told it so many times.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to tell you that story, and it was incredible. I just never forget
I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot, you know, and I know what you're saying as well. Like, I've felt that before, you know, and it's an honor to be able to do that, you know, and to be a part of that myself, you know, and I need to hear that as well, because, you know, I'll get complacent, you know. Like I said, being on tour for 6 months, sometimes I'm in an awful mood, you know, and hearing that, I you know, I need to hear that, because like every single person has made the effort to come and see that. I have to do that justice, and I appreciate it. Yeah.
And just on the tail end of that, Cassie B was wondering what is the best compliment you've ever received?
Oh God. That's a really good question. I don't know specifically, to be honest. I think in terms of my achievements, actually, one comes to mind. It might sound a bit odd, but we played Coachella in 2013, I think, the first time, and we were just like, what, how are we here? You know, and there was all this buzz around us as well, and it was like, this is just insane. We're on at 4 p.m., which was a perfect slot for us at the time, and somebody told us that Skrillex was going to watch us from side of stage, and I was a big fan of Skrillex. I think he's one of the most talented people in the world. As a producer, he's like a savant, and he's a good person. And so I was like, oh shit, okay, well, he's going to watch us, you know, me, you know, he's going to watch me play drums. And it really affected how I played, but I think in a good way. You know, I often find it that pressure, knowing that certain people are in the crowd, is like, I'll show you, like, you know. And so I played my balls off, and then came back afterwards, and he didn't want to overwhelm us and stuff, and he was being really nice about it. And then later on, we hung out with him, and he was like, "You're a really good drummer," and I knew that he meant it. Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah. And he really meant it. And he was like, "Do you like the Deftones? Like, you remind me of like the Deftones." I was like, "You are the only person so far to recognize that." And yes, like, I'm massively influenced. And he was like, "Yeah, I can hear it all over it."
Wow.
And in that moment, I was just like, you know, we're in it backstage at Coachella, and the backstage, if you're an artist, all the artists are in the same area. So, you know, you'll see Beyonce or Katy Perry walking around, and Skrillex, and David Byrne and people. And so, you know, it might, like, you know, in terms of compliments go, it's up there. I love that memory.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to show you. I don't know how to share screen here, but see if you can see this. You see that?
No.
No. Perfect. Share. Do you see that?
Just said oh yeah, I see that. Yeah.
This is some fan art that was sent.
Yeah. Was that a group of people?
Yeah, they so just 1 second, let's see if I can get back in here. I'll probably screw myself up here now. There it is. Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So Millie Long and Sakara Vitayero were wondering if you appreciate fan art, and they wanted to show you that because let them know that Turka Skodova's idea and included 30 people worldwide. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah. I did see it. And this, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I do love fan art. Yeah. You know, sometimes it's with my kind of you know, my self-consciousness and things. It's like, oh, that's a picture of me, and you know, you've got to kind of take that in. But it's great. It's amazing the amount of effort that went into that. I appreciate every single person that did that. You know, for them all to like come and communicate with each other, to spend the amount of hours that must have taken just, and that's to do with me and Joe and Gus. You know, I can't actually like take in how amazing I am, how amazing that is, and how grateful I am. You know,
Yeah.
and it's, I don't have I'm too lazy to make fan art, like, you know. And it's a beautiful picture. It's really well done, and obviously I know that photo. I know where we were when that photo, where it's based on, was taken. It takes me back to that moment in New York, in Brooklyn, I think, in like a warehouse. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I appreciate it a lot. There's been I've had some amazing gifts and some amazing fan art made, I've got a lot up at home. It's great.
I love it. I know we're getting towards the end here. I have like 4 more questions. We can maybe rapid fire and try to get everybody included here.
Cool.
James Green asked, intro, Awesome Wave or This Is All Yours? Which one's better?
Awesome Wave.
I agree.
Yeah. I
said
think
he wanted to settle it once and for all.
Yeah, I mean, Awesome Wave is, it's
Groundbreaking.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's hard to. It's kind of annoying how how much I love that album and how proud of it I am, because I just compare everything we do to it. Yeah, I know. I mean, and it's really like it changed our lives dramatically, that album. And it's this weird thing because like when we're writing, it's like, oh, we think back to it and it's like, we need to like do that again, and like it's like, well, we can't, like we're different people.
Right.
It's impossible to do that again. What we need to do is embrace who we are now and be honest about it. And that's what we did then. Like we weren't thinking this is going to be very good for us. We had no idea. Like we genuinely didn't know if we released the album it would sell a couple of copies and we'd just go back to work, like work.
Right.
So that it's hard to compare anything to an Awesome Wave, but yeah,
Definitely.
intro. Yeah. I like them both, but that one hands down.
I agree. And Thomas Gaffney said, having painted the art for This Is All Yours, what are your favorite album covers?
Good question. Trying to think off the top of my head. There's obviously Nirvana Bleach, which is iconic.
Yep.
In Rainbows is a good cover. All
of Radiohead's covers seem to be
true.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where they kind of influence each other. The music influences the cover and vice versa. They could have had a picture of a brick wall on there, or just like a pile of garbage, and it would have been iconic.
Would have made sense somehow.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really like the Kids See Ghosts album cover, and actually the leak. Well, Kanye is kind of, it's controversial at the moment, but the cover that he posted for his so-called album that he will be apparently releasing, that cover is incredible. Like he's good at like aesthetics, like you have to hand it to him. Like I wish he'd released the album already, and but that cover is something else. I can't describe what it does to me, but I'm like, you bastard! Like I wish I'd seen that. That's what a good cover is for me, anyway. So I wish I'd seen that. Yeah, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'd have to go through my Spotify or something.
I love it. Sam Hudson was wondering, what was the most difficult part of Gwil leaving the band, and was there anything he contributed that you feel is maybe missing now?
Yeah, I think the hardest part was the months afterwards, because he left the day before we were due to like start writing a second album, which is fine. Like it was the timing was, for him there was no great time to go. So it was a weird couple of months after that. We were like, oh, can we do this? Like we have no idea. Like we're not sure. Like I don't think any of us thought we shouldn't. Like we knew that we had to crack on. And in terms of what he brought a lot. Like he brought the dynamic of 3 is very different to 4. You have to be careful sometimes that the 3 doesn't become lopsided. With 4, it can be easier to navigate, and there is a bit more kind of democracy maybe, but I think I've found that the hardest is, I lent on him for a lot, and he was always very, very truthful and honest. Like he always his values were crystal clear. Well, they seem to be. It might not be. He might say different, but they always, his value always have been. And so if he didn't agree with something, then you know, he gave his reasons, and I respect that a lot. And I try to be like that myself. And yeah, I miss that. You know, I miss, he and I agreed on a lot of stuff, and also like he took things seriously, but he also, you know, didn't. And not, that's the best way I can put it, like without sounding like something bad. Like he took it seriously in the way that you should. We're still friends. I still talk to him and see him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. New music, Alt J solo stuff. What can we expect? What's on the go?
So yeah, we've been working on stuff. We always are. And before lockdown hit, we were working on stuff in the capacity of it being, you know, Alt J. I have to be careful what I say, just because.
Give it to me. Give it all.
Yeah, I wish I could. Like, you know, but and also the truth is that we are really working day by day at the moment, just because we just don't know what the plan is, and also that's the best way for us to work. I appreciate that it's been a while, and you know, that if it was me, I'd want something right now. All I can say is that the stuff that we've been doing is, for me, on par with what we did to begin, like an awesome way, like in terms of like the way that we're writing and how we feel, and the space around it, and just how easy it is. We were quite surprised with what we were doing, and just how good it is. And so for us to release anything, it has to be perfect. So it will take time, but it will be worth it, I hope. And solo stuff, I'm always working on stuff, but I have this thing where I'm kind of scared to put it out, because it you know, there's a couple of things. I want to do it justice. I want it to be released, and I want people to hear it. And there is a little bit of like, you know, Alt J is the golden boy, and the solo stuff isn't. So I have to kind of like talk to people a bit more to get it out, which is fine. But I'm very precious of it as well, and I'm tempted every day to just put it all on SoundCloud all at once. Yeah, which I'd be fine with. I'm not trying to make money off it or anything, like, but I want people to listen to it. So when I think about that, it's like I want it to reach as many people as possible. And if I just put it on SoundCloud, 6 people would listen to it. You know, 4 of them would be me.
I might be 5 and 6.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm working with a friend at the moment who I mentioned, Adam Connor. We made an EP together, and I can say this because I'm only half of it. It's amazing, and I really want I want to release it in the right way. Like it knocks, like it's heavy, and it's Aphex Twin-esque, and it's also just trappy and good. So
where do we find that?
It's not out. Like again, like we've got 6 tracks, and I just want to do it justice, and yeah, I'm a perfectionist, so unfortunately it has to be perfect before I release it. So
well, we all are excited for anything that you put out, and just can't wait. Seriously, can't wait.
Thanks. Yeah, it's good to know.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. This has been surreal for me. Huge fan just of your solo stuff, Alt J, everything, you in general. Thank you so much for doing this, man.
I appreciate it. You know, like, I think people often might assume that, like, I might, you know, that I haven't done interviews in a long time. I had to kind of stop doing it, and I think quite rightly might think that I just wouldn't want to do it, but I like, like I don't mind talking, and in this environment there's no pressure, and I appreciate you asking me, and I appreciate all the questions. It's really nice to be in the middle of like a pandemic and not being on tour for almost 2 years, to know that people care, and that and people are still listening, and one thing I recently I deactivated my social media, like my Instagram and my Twitter account, because it was driving me mad, the amount of people that are getting cancelled left, right, and center at the moment because of slip-ups. Slip-ups might be the wrong way to put it. Like, a lot of people deserve it, but I don't like seeing all that stuff every day. So I deactivated my accounts, but and I know that, like, I do speak to a lot of fans and interact with people through that. So I apologize if it seems like I don't care. I do. There's the Alt-J Discord, which I set up recently. I'm on there. I'm happy to like engage with people on there. The link is on the Alt-J Facebook page, and so if I'll be engaging with people on there and stuff. It's just Instagram and Twitter. It's not that healthy for me, so.
I don't think it's healthy for anybody, to be honest.
I agree. I could talk for an hour on why social media is really damaging, and there's a fine line between sounding like a conspiracy theorist and but I think from the people that are who I respect are really like making sense about it, and there's a lot that I'm learning about the kind of reward system that you get from it, and how it's addictive, and how it your Instagram account it's a persona. It's not you. You're like just maintaining this persona, and that's what I was doing. Like, I really hope that people like this image that I'm posting, and I've only got so many likes. Like, that's making me feel bad, or being scared to post a picture of yourself because it's like, I'm fucking ugly, and it's not true. None of that's true. So I'm trying to take a step back, and but the Discord is there if people are wanting to interact. So yeah.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't even know if that's right.
It looks good.
Yeah. I think that's something.
It's something.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you. Yeah.
Seriously, it's been a pleasure. I don't know how else to even say it to you. Like, this is surreal, and I hope to see you guys again on the road soon, and hopefully I'll get to meet you in person.
Oh yeah, anytime.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.